Elvis was in the middle of Can't Help Falling in Love when he saw a man in the third row slap a child across the face. Elvis stopped singing mid-word. The band kept playing for a few seconds before they realized something was wrong. Security tried to stop Elvis from leaving the stage. He said 6 words, "Get that man out right now." It was March 1974 at the Las Vegas Hilton. Elvis was performing for 15,000 people. It was supposed to be a standard Saturday night, the kind he'd done hundreds of times. The audience was enthusiastic, the band was tight, the show was running smoothly. Elvis was halfway through his set when he started Can't Help Falling in Love. It was a signature song the crowd always loved. He'd performed it thousands of times. As he sang, Elvis's eyes scanned the audience the way they always did. He liked connecting with individual fans, making eye contact, making people feel seen. His gaze moved across the front rows, pausing here and there to acknowledge someone particularly enthusiastic. That's when he saw it. Third row, slightly to the left. A man, probably in his 30s, wearing a casual shirt and looking irritated, had just struck a boy who couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. It wasn't a gentle correction. It was a hard, open-handed slap across the child's face that snapped the boy's head to the side. Elvis stopped singing. Not at the end of a phrase, not at a natural pause. Mid-word. His voice just cut off. The band, confused, kept playing for another few bars before the guitarist noticed Elvis had stopped and began signaling the others. One by one, the instruments fell silent. Within seconds, the entire arena was quiet, except for the confused murmur of 15,000 people wondering what was happening. Elvis stood at the microphone, staring at the third row. His expression had gone from the warm, engaged performer to something hard and focused. The audience followed his gaze, trying to figure out what he was looking at. Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager, was standing in the wings. He immediately sensed something was wrong and started toward the stage. Elvis pointed toward the third row. His voice, when he spoke into the microphone, was quiet, but carried clearly through the arena's sound system. That man in the third row just hit a child. The arena went dead silent. 15,000 people turned to look at the third row. The man Elvis was pointing at, his name was Gerald Thompson, though nobody knew that yet, looked around nervously, suddenly aware that everyone was staring at him. "Sir," Elvis said, still speaking into the microphone, his voice calm but absolutely firm. "Stand up." Thompson didn't move. He kept his head down, trying to blend into his seat, hoping maybe Elvis would let it go and return to the show. "Stand up," Elvis repeated. "Now." Security guards near the stage were starting to move, uncertain what was happening, but knowing they needed to be ready for something. Thompson slowly stood up. Next to him, the boy, his son, was crying quietly, one hand on his reddened cheek. Elvis walked to the edge of the stage, getting as close to the third row as he could. The spotlight followed him. "Did you just hit that child?" Elvis asked. Thompson looked around, seeing thousands of faces staring at him. "He was misbehaving," Thompson said defensively, his voice barely carrying over the tense silence. "He's my son. It's none of your business how I discipline him." "It became my business the second you did it in my venue during my show," Elvis said. His voice was still controlled, but everyone could hear the anger underneath it. Joe Esposito had reached the stage and was trying to get Elvis's attention. "Elvis," he called out quietly, "let security handle this." Elvis didn't look at Joe. He kept his eyes on Thompson. "Security," Elvis said into the microphone, "get that man out of this venue right now." 2 security guards started moving down the aisle toward the third row, but they hesitated, uncertain about the protocol. They'd never ejected someone from an Elvis concert for something like this. Usually they dealt with drunk fans or people trying to rush the stage. This was different. "Elvis," Joe said again, more urgently, climbing onto the stage. "You need to let them handle it properly. There are procedures." Elvis pulled the microphone away from his mouth and spoke directly to Joe, quiet enough that the audience couldn't hear. "Either they get him out in the next 30 seconds, or I'm going down there myself." Joe knew that tone. Elvis wasn't making an idle threat. He turned to the security guards, who were still hesitating in the aisle. "Do what he said. Get that man out, now." Thompson, seeing security approaching, became belligerent. You can't throw me out. I paid for these tickets. I have a right to be here. Elvis spoke into the microphone again. You lost that right when you struck a child. The woman sitting next to Thompson, his wife Sandra, was crying now, trying to shield the boy while also trying to calm her husband down. Gerald, please, just let it go. Let's just leave. I'm not leaving, Thompson said, his voice rising. I didn't do anything wrong. The kid was acting up. I gave him a smack. That's what fathers do. This is ridiculous. The security guards reached the third row. Sir, you need to come with us. I'm not going anywhere, Thompson said, sitting back down defiantly. That's when Elvis did something that made Joe's heart stop. He handed his microphone to a backup singer, walked to the edge of the stage, and started climbing down toward the audience. Elvis, no! Joe shouted. But Elvis was already moving. The front rows parted as Elvis walked through them toward the third row. The security guards, surprised by this development, didn't know whether to stop Elvis or help him. Elvis reached the third row and stood directly in front of Thompson, who suddenly didn't seem quite so defiant with Elvis Presley standing 2 feet away from him. Stand up, Elvis said quietly. Thompson, intimidated despite himself, stood. I saw what you did, Elvis said, his voice low enough that the microphone wouldn't pick it up, but people nearby could hear. You hit that boy hard, in the face, while he was sitting there trying to enjoy a show. That tells me everything I need to know about what kind of man you are. You don't know anything about me or my family, Thompson said, trying to sound tough but failing. I know you're the kind of man who hits children, Elvis said. That's all I need to know. Security is going to escort you out. You can go quietly, or you can make a scene and I'll make sure everyone in this arena knows exactly what you did. Your choice. Thompson looked around. Thousands of people were watching. His wife was crying. His son was terrified, and Elvis wasn't backing down. Fine, Thompson muttered. I'll leave. Good choice, Elvis said. He knelt down to be at eye level with the boy. Hey, buddy, what's your name? The boy, sniffling, whispered, Michael. Michael, you didn't do anything wrong, Elvis said gently. Nothing that happened tonight was your fault. You were just trying to enjoy a show. The boy nodded, wiping his eyes. Elvis looked up at Sandra Thompson, the mother. Ma'am, do you need help? Is there somewhere safe you and Michael can go? Sandra, overwhelmed and embarrassed, just nodded. We're fine. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You don't need to apologize, Elvis said. You're not the one who did something wrong. Elvis stood up and looked at the security guards. Take him out and call the police. I want a report filed. One of the security guards looked uncertain. Elvis, I'm not sure we can... Call the police, Elvis repeated firmly. That man assaulted a child in front of 15,000 witnesses. There should be a record of it. As security escorted Thompson out, he was still protesting, still insisting he'd done nothing wrong. Elvis climbed back on stage. The arena was completely silent. Nobody knew quite what to do or say. Elvis picked up his microphone and looked out at the crowd. I apologize for the interruption, he said, but I want to make something very clear. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you bought a ticket. I don't care if you're having a bad day. You don't get to hit children. Not in my venue. Not anywhere. And if I see it happening, I'm going to do something about it. The arena erupted in applause, not the usual screaming and cheering. This was different. This was approval, support, respect. People stood up. The applause lasted for nearly a minute. When it finally quieted down, Elvis looked back at the third row, where Sandra was still sitting with Michael. Ma'am, you and your son are welcome to stay and enjoy the show. On the house, security will make sure you're comfortable. Then Elvis counted off the band. All right, let's try this again. From the top. He started Can't Help Falling in Love Over, and this time he sang it all the way through. But everyone noticed he kept glancing at the third row, making sure Michael and his mother were okay. After the show, Elvis asked Joe about the situation. What happened with that family? Police came, took statements. Thompson was cited for assault, and the mother and boy stayed for the whole show. Security moved them to better seats. The boy was smiling by the end. His mother wants to thank you. Bring them back, Elvis said. Minutes later, Sandra Thompson and Michael were in Elvis's dressing room. Sandra was nervous, still processing everything. Mr. Presley, I don't know what to say, she began. You don't have to say anything, Elvis said. He knelt down to talk to Michael. Did you have fun, buddy? Michael nodded enthusiastically. It It was the best night ever. Elvis smiled. I'm glad. Hey, you want a souvenir? He took off one of his scarves, the kind he usually gave to fans during shows, and tied it around Michael's neck. There you go. Now you've got something to remember tonight by. Michael's eyes went wide. He looked up at his mother, who was crying again, but happier tears this time. Thank you, Sandra said, for everything, for stopping the show, for standing up for my son, for making Gerald face consequences. Elvis stood up. Ma'am, I hope you and Michael are going to be okay. If things at home aren't safe, they will be, Sandra said quickly. Tonight made things very clear. Gerald's been getting worse and I've been making excuses, but seeing him get escorted out, seeing my son smile during your show after everything, I know what I need to do. Elvis nodded. He didn't push, but he gave her a card with a phone number. If you need help, call this number. It's a resource center for families. They can help with legal stuff, safe places to stay, whatever you need. Sandra took the card, her hands shaking. Thank you. The story spread quickly. News outlets ran it. Elvis stops concert to eject abusive father. Opinions divided. Some praised Elvis. Others thought he'd overstepped. Elvis didn't care about criticism. In an interview 2 weeks later, he was direct. I saw a man hit a child, hard, in the face. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen. I'm not going to look the other way. If that makes me unprofessional, I'm okay with that. The interviewer asked about precedent. What precedent? That I care about children's safety? I hope every performer knows they can stop their show and do something about it. Michael Thompson never forgot that night. He grew up, became a teacher, and spent his career working with at-risk children. In a 2003 interview, he talked about the Elvis concert. My father hit me a lot when I was growing up, Michael said. I was used to it. I thought it was normal. But that night when Elvis stopped his entire show, stopped singing in front of 15,000 people just because he saw my father hit me, that was the first time I realized it wasn't normal. That was the first time I understood that I didn't deserve to be treated that way. He went on. Elvis didn't know me. He didn't know my story. But he saw a child being hurt, and he did something about it. That night changed my life. Not just because Elvis was kind to me afterward, though he was, but because he showed me that adults could protect children instead of hurting them. That lesson shaped everything I became. The story became part of Elvis's legend, not the flashy Las Vegas performances or the gold records, but the moment he stopped a show because a child was in trouble. It showed a side of Elvis that not everyone knew, the man who'd grown up poor and protective, who couldn't stand seeing someone hurt someone smaller and weaker. From that night forward, Elvis made it clear to venues, if security saw violence, especially involving children, they had full authorization to remove the person immediately. Several more incidents occurred over the years, and each time, Elvis backed security completely. The lesson wasn't complicated. Some things matter more than a show running smoothly. Some things matter more than avoiding controversy or keeping everyone happy. Protecting children matters. Standing up to violence matters. Using whatever platform or power you have to defend people who can't defend themselves, that matters most of all. If this story moved you, make sure to like and subscribe. Share this with someone who works with children or someone who needs a reminder that standing up to abuse is everyone's responsibility. Have you ever witnessed something you knew was wrong and had to decide whether to intervene? Let us know in the comments and hit that notification bell for more stories about courage when it matters most.